I know some of you guys thought she was going away. I know some of you thought after she went on that never-ending retirement tour last fall, where she waved an emotional goodbye to empty soccer stadiums across the country. I know some of you thought that Meg Rapinoe was riding off into the bird's nest to enjoy a life of retirement with the Sue Bird. But Uncle KC tried to tell you, Uncle KC tried to warn you that the inspiration for prepubescent boys, she was just getting started. The only thing retirement from pretend soccer did, it was give the Megster an abundance of free time to whine and complain about the self-created issues that are near and dear to her woke heart. And you know the issues I'm talking about. You know the classic woke boner words. I don't need to sit here and remind you about it. All my young boys out there, and my women aspiring to be men, anyone who chooses to identify as a worshiper of Meg Rapinoe, let Uncle KC give you some valuable advice. Here in a couple of minutes, I'm going to share a clip with you guys that features a deacon at Woke United Methodist complaining about things that have no basis in reality. She will be complaining about myths and fantasies. Now, while you're watching the clip, you might think that you are watching someone who is suffering from some kind of traumatic brain injury. That is not the case. Doctors at Woke Memorial Hospital, they have confirmed she is 100% lucid. If you happen to be a young follower of the Megster, if you aspire to be a prepubescent boy, when you're watching this clip, I want you to pay very, very close attention, because if you follow her path, this is what you are going to be when you grow up. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Let's pretend for 1 second that we are the commissioner of the WNBA. We're getting close to the off season. We have contracted the services of Kelsey the plumber to ensure that the golden toilet is efficiently operating. So the dump that wins the WNBA finals, they will have immediate access to a working latrine. With that important piece of business out of the way, we can spend the remainder of the off season diagnosing the biggest problems in our dump. Now, if you're the commissioner of the WNBA, what is one of the first problems that you're going to diagnose and resolve? Well, KC, if I were the WNBA commissioner, the first and only thing I would do is permanently shut this league down. Yeah, I mean, that's obvious, but let's just pretend that we're the commissioner and we actually care about the future of pretend basketball. What are some of the biggest problems that you would want to resolve? Maybe you would focus on training. Maybe you would focus on teaching WNBA players how to actually play the game of basketball, how to make wide open layups, how to dribble the ball between your legs instead of constantly dribbling the ball off your hand-me-down shoes. Perhaps you would focus on making the live experience at WNBA games more entertaining. That way, people would actually pay and show up. Obviously, the pretend basketball, that is not going to draw people in, so you could spend the off-season booking acts that actually entertain people to make appearances at WNBA games. Perhaps a live performance by Taylor Swift, or the first steps taken by the Lizzo now that she has lost a ton of weight and no longer needs the forklift. Maybe you spend the off-season trying to figure out how this pathetic dump can finally generate a single peso in profit. I mean, there are so many problems in the WNBA, it's kind of hard to know where to begin. But according to the Megster, these are not the most important problems in the WNBA dump. No. According to Meg Rapinoe, there are far more serious problems impacting the victims in the WNBA, with the two biggest problems being mythical racism and mythical misogyny. And the fact that the evil Cat Engelbert, she refuses to protect her victims from these heinous crimes. Before we get to the clip, let's go and get to the sponsor for today's video, my friends at Foursquares Apparel. I don't know if you guys remember this, but a couple of years ago, Father Jalen Rose, former lead pastor at Woke United Methodist, in one of his final sermons before he was fired, Father Jalen, he added an addendum to the Woke Commandments where he banned use of the term Mount Rushmore. Since loyal parishioners are no longer allowed to use the term Mount Rushmore, we have decided to honor these legendary presidents by wearing them on our feet. My friends at Foursquares Apparel, they took this ban very seriously, and they came up with colorful socks to honor the presidents on Mount Rushmore. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abe Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, known to friends and family as Teddy and not to be confused with his distant cousin Frankie. Socks from Foursquares Apparel, they are offered in several sizes and colors, and they are perfect if you like to play golf. So click the link in the description below. Use my promo code BTL10, BTL10. Receive 10% off your first purchase with Foursquares Apparel. All right, Megan Rapinoe. She has a podcast with her esposa, the Sue Bird. The podcast is called A Touch More. I'm pretty sure 99% of the population is looking for a touch less of Megan Rapinoe. Matter of fact, I'd like to see a hell of a lot less of the Megster. Wouldn't bother me if I never heard from the Megster ever again. But yesterday, Meg and her wife Bird, they were talking about the problems in the WNBA. And when I say problems, they weren't talking about the real problems. They were talking about the mythical problems that jealous WNBA players keep creating because no one pays attention to them. According to the Megster, it is the responsibility of Cathy Engelbert and the WNBA itself to protect and shield WNBA players from these self-created issues. Watch for yourself.
It is necessary to speak plainly and be explicitly clear about what your values are, what is not okay. Racism is never okay. Sexism is never okay, whether online and in real life. Misogyny, homophobia, all the things are never okay. And this is where I feel like the players have been failed the most by Cathy, the commissioner, this year. Like you said, this isn't new. This has been coming. Not just the comments that the commissioner made a few weeks ago where she basically implied that the racial tension is good for business and invoking Magic and Bird. It's not good for business. It's never good for business. The WNBA's perspective, the WNBA in the league office and in Cathy's role specifically is basically to protect and shepherd the league, both from a business perspective, from a player welfare perspective, from a health and safety perspective, and from a growth and investment perspective. And this is where I feel like she's failed.
Is it any wonder why anything associated with Megan Rapinoe doesn't make money? Is it any wonder why the NWSL is a huge embarrassing failure? Is it any wonder why Megan Rapinoe has never been a part of a successful business? She didn't know shit about business. For starters, let me go ahead and explain something to the Megster. And I rarely defend Cathy Engelbert, but this is one area where I will always defend the diva of dump divas. It is not her responsibility to protect WNBA players from criticism. It is not her responsibility to shield WNBA players from trolls on social media. As commissioner of the WNBA, Cathy Engelbert has one job and one job only: make money, generate profit. Now, obviously, she is failing miserably at her job. Cathy Engelbert and the WNBA, they will likely be nominated for the second annual Huge Embarrassing Failure Awards, which will be taking place here on the channel probably in December. But it is not Cathy Engelbert's job to protect WNBA players from words. Cathy Engelbert has not failed WNBA players. The league itself, it hasn't failed WNBA players. You know who has failed them? The players themselves. They are the reason that no one is watching this unwatchable product. They are the reason this league has been completely ignored for the last 30 years. This past season, for the first time ever, there was a legitimate superstar in the WNBA that's bringing mainstream attention. A legitimate star who's got the ability to lift unknown dump divers out of obscurity, giving them the opportunity to increase their minimum wage salaries. And what do WNBA players do with their cash cow? They try to destroy her. They constantly complain about the attention she receives. They ostracize her. They accuse her fans of racism. They do everything in their power to convince people not to watch their substandard product. This league, it did not fail the players. The players did this to themselves. You know what one of the biggest problems is right now in the WNBA? Outside of me and a couple of others, no one is willing to hold these entitled players accountable. It is not my fault that you're a huge embarrassing failure. I'm just highlighting your stupidity. The reason your league is a failure is because of you. Megan Rapinoe also claimed that the WNBA needs to express its values. They need to let fans know racism is never acceptable, sexism is never acceptable. The only ism that is acceptable is socialism. And I should know because I'm a beneficiary of socialism. The Megster is a professional at cashing checks she did not earn. How can a league that literally has no value express its value? Financially, the WNBA is absolutely worthless. What value is Meg wanting to be expressed? Well, Casey, I think she was talking about their moral values, their woke values. Moral values? Who cares? Who cares about the WNBA's moral values? Here in about 3 weeks, NBA regular season will begin. You know how many fucks I give about Zion Williamson's moral values? None. Here's what I care about. Is Zion in shape? Is Zion ready to play 82 games? At minimum, 70 games. Is Zion motivated? Can he dunk? Can he put up 25 a night? You know what I'm not asking about Zion Williamson? Does he care about equity? Does he care about diversity? Is he cheating on his girlfriend? No disrespect to his girlfriend, but I don't care about their personal relationship. Can Zion Williamson win basketball games? If the answer is yes, that's all I care about. Look, this is not supposed to be personal. This is business. No one cares about the values of the WNBA. If this league stopped focusing so much on values and started focusing on producing an entertaining product, maybe the WNBA would have some actual value. That sentiment you just heard from Megan Rapinoe, along with her comments about Christine Brennan from USA Today, that is one of the biggest problems in the WNBA. You need to get rid of the activist and hire professional basketball players. Cathy Engelbert needs to put her stilettos down and say, enough is enough. This league is ruining a golden opportunity, which is fine with me. That is fine with me. Like I said many times this week, the WNBA, they are getting exactly what they deserve. But give me your thoughts on this. Megan Rapinoe accuses the WNBA of not protecting its players from criticism. Now, she called it racism, but there hasn't been a single piece of evidence provided to support those claims. So for now, it seems that WNBA players are whining because they're being criticized. Did anyone even know that Meg had a podcast? I mean, this is the first I've heard about it. Credit to Meg, though. Credit to Meg. If there is one thing that Meg knows how to do, it's get noticed. She knew exactly what she was doing here. She knew if she complained about mythical racism that people would pay attention. By this time next week, Meg Rapinoe will be forgotten again. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. Appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, and I'll see you guys later.